Mikee on the Money Players podcast as it rolls on for Saturday, July the 25th. Another Woodbine segment. Lots of graded stakes action for this Saturday. And Ray Cotolo has been doing some of these shows with me. He loves him some Woodbine. So, Ray, what's up?
Not much. Thank you for telling me where in the show to slot this in. This very clearly doesn't open the late week show when I go to assemble it afterwards. So this probably, is the best for last. So we'll once again reserve it for or if they're listening right now, they already know this is the last segment of the show.
Well, of course, you can catch us on the YouTube channel also. So if you're interested in that, and just by itself, we'll be there on the In the Money Media YouTube channel. But for the audio people, which like to listen to the late week show, here's a Woodbine segment for you. And we're going to look late pick four for Saturday here, July the 25th. And Ray, we have 3 graded stakes. We have a couple turf races in this sequence. And we were talking off air about a lot of these horses are switching back between synthetic and turf. And I made the point to you, and I'm going to make it again, that I do think that there are differences in these horses, and some prefer to be on the grass. Now, there's not a huge difference. It's certainly not dirt, but I do think at the top level that just because you're a top turf horse doesn't mean you're going to be a top synthetic horse, and vice versa.
My stance is that something like a Tapeta or a poly track, it has I don't know if the proper term would be a different cushion, because obviously your standard dirt tracks do have a cushion, but those surfaces have historically been more forgiving to horses that maybe can't handle the pop or the firmness, for lack of a better term, of a dirt track. And on top of that, the point I made to you, I don't know that there really is any quantification to make where if a horse goes from turf to dirt, you'll watch a speed figure drop or go up by a point differential that truly matters. And if anything, I feel like what you're saying is an antiquated point. It's generally accepted inside of handicapping circles. And to that end, there's not really much of an edge to gain. If anything, it could just end up being a situational thing where if you have a surface change on a horse who is showing good numbers, is showing good form, but the odds are higher because the public thinks that they can't handle the surface, that by definition is your gambling edge to take a shot with. And you could also see it the other way, where gamblers, they look at good form and they know just what a good horse is. And to that end, what I'm saying doesn't matter. So I ultimately just think that you don't have to take it as great into a consideration as you do like regular dirt and turf. But, like Tapeta still plays like dirt. If you got lone speed, you do well like you do on regular dirt.
Mm-hmm. We'll try to incorporate some of this conversation into these races because we have plenty of examples. And race number 8 is grade 3 Ontario Colleen Stakes. It's 3-year-old fillies here, Ray. Inner turf is still rolling, but the outer is coming back. I think the second weekend in August, I believe I read the tweet. It's definitely coming back here within the next 2 weeks or so. So keep an eye out for that. But this race is going a mile. Again, 3-year-old fillies. And Ray, we have horses coming from a lot of different places. You have horses coming from Penn National. You have horses coming from Polytrack, sprinters stretching out. So Saratoga shipper in here also. How are we going to kick it off?
Well, I'm curious about, you didn't even mention, what do you do with the horse that won the maiden and is now going into a grade 3 for a Tard and Moran? That horse is throwing me off.
I like her. I think she'd be my top pick in this race.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Like I understand the hesitancy for some of the other turf form. Like even me having the 2 as an A, it's a loose A because I don't think that Penn Oaks was really that strong of a race. And on top of that, the horse just got a good trip and rolled and won. And the way you see most Clement horses win on the turf. So I don't really know that there's any like sense of ability to gauge on that. And on top of that, you're going to be taking a huge hit in the price given the connections and the draw. I kind of like the 4 inside of this race for Ammo Racing. This is a interesting page to look at. I couldn't really tell if the horse was struggling with the surfaces over there, because there's that one race at Salisbury, which is a uphill track, uphill finish over in England. And sometimes that's a really tough configuration for horses to work. And on top of that, this one raced over a soft surface there, didn't really like it. Since coming to the US, I think has been okay. You know, the first race didn't really break well, finished okay, broke better, and then finished more in hand at second asking while adding Lasix. The appeal for me is getting this horse primed to break better and then stretching out into this graded stakes company. I think that's an interesting cycle that they're taking, to the point where it seems like this could be one of the targets for this horse that they've primed him for, or primed her for, excuse me. And as long as she can break well, then she probably stands a chance. So I feel like the 4, probably my top call inside of that race. I don't mind the 2 because, you know, Clement still wins in these spots. Horses adding Lasix, that might, you know, pump him up a point or 2 in whatever he can actually put into the race. I'd use the 3 because you like her. I think I just had a tough time gauging where she would move up from that maiden win, especially since that was a perfect trip. She just sat inside, popped out, went by, coming into graded stakes company. Obviously, Attard, he knows how to pick these spots, so maybe he sees something in her that I don't. But I do wonder if you're going to get any type of price like that 6-1 morning line, because those connections get played. And my last note would be, as a B, I kind of like the 9, but I'm curious about your thoughts on her, because this looks like a horse. This is like one of those typical Graham Motion, like low key, bring them into a graded stakes race. Got a nice win off of soft fractions from off the speed last time. It's a low figure, but I mean, he gets these horses ready for spots like this, and they can easily go up many points.
Yeah, I like the 9. We'll talk about the 3 first, and that's Arthur. This one, if you look at the pedigree here, as a half to a horse called Up with the Birds. I don't know if you remember that horse, but graded stakes performer, did have a graded stakes win over this Woodbine turf course. Now, obviously, this is the inner turf, but this one has some back, I do think, pedigree to go off. And yeah, you mentioned perfect trip, but did have to sit inside and you know, take some kickback there first time out, and when the rail opened, this one finished up quite nicely, and it says, you know, fence trip and dart by. I mean, and that's exactly what she did. The pace wasn't exactly super fast that day, and you know, the favorite got the jump on her. There was just a lot of things for me to like in there, and now the fact that they're bringing this horse back in this race into a graded stake, albeit, you know, right off that maiden win, that shows confidence. I mean, these connections don't do those sorts of things very often. So I'm interested in that one, especially at 6-1 morning line. You mentioned the 2, and that one's adding Lasix off a win. Well, I'm not a huge fan of that. That's one of my least favorite angles, honestly, as far as a horse. Why does this horse need Lasix? I know everyone can use it, but you know, you don't see the 3 adding Lasix in this spot off that win. So the fact that they're adding Lasix is a little bit of a red flag for me, and you're going to get a short price on this one. So I'm going to pitch that one. You mentioned the 9, Brat Pack. I like this one, 8-1 morning line. It's Graham Motion. He's struggling at Saratoga, but usually when he brings horses up here to Woodbine, they're quite well met. This one added Lasix last time at Delaware, was able to win from off the pace, stumbled at the start, had a rough trip, still ended up winning. Now you get an outside post, you get a jockey switch, and you're going to get a price in here. Again, shows confidence that shows up in this spot here. So I think that this one would be a use. And you look at the dam on this one, again, you know, the nice pedigree here. Ultra Brad, I mean, this one was second by an inch to Sister Charlie in that grade 1 Diana. So the pedigree's there, the connections are there. I do think the improvement is possibly there also. So I'd be heavy 3 and 9. The 7's kind of the other horse in there. Yeah, what do you do after the last time, man? It was in that incident at Saratoga where there was, you know, clipped heels and fell. The horse was less than 5-1 in that spot. So maybe if she's okay, you give her another chance. She'd be more like a B.
Well, I mean, if you don't really have much of an opinion of the 2, I can't imagine you have much of an opinion of the 7, because they both come out of the Penn Oaks, and the 7 really didn't do much. I do wonder what Flores is going to be as an addition for that 9 horse, because Ruiz, a very tactical rider, and one that can really get these motion horses ready for next out, as one can be really aggressive, and that's probably going to be key with this outside draw. Not necessarily to get towards the lead, but you see that this horse just usually gets so far back, and it's tough to make up ground on that inner turf. So that's why I have the 9 as a B. I think the horse could run a good race, but I don't know that it would be good enough to overcome the track configuration. And you know, you make an excellent case on the 3. Worth also noting, one of the rare horses that wins at a route on debut. That's a hard thing to do.
Race 9, the grade 3 Hendry Stakes, 6.5. And we're on the synthetic here, Ray. And Last year's winner, Creed's Gold, shows up in this spot, galloped in that race, and then has been on the grass ever since, and tried Tampa, Keeneland, Churchill, back here, back home, back on the synthetic. And here's a horse that wants to be on the synthetic. 2 for 3, galloped in this race last year. If you look, that's her best figure. Does she win?
Well, I mean, it seems like the barn really has this one in play. Yeah, she's drawn right outside of a potential rabbit and without cause. This one, I mean, that the one horse specifically, great at breaking. Looks like the two, maybe the best of the Cassie trio, can probably sit right outside with that target. And I mean, you know, that puts Cassie in a situation where if the one's able to go gate to wire, I mean, that's fine. But it seems like the two probably the one that can win this race. And that just threw me off in the whole dynamic of trying to assess how this race goes. The one doesn't seem like speed in my mind that would go all the way around. I believe there's another strong pace setter. In the Wesley Ward horse that's coming up here, adding Lasix. Very clearly needs it. When you finish 10th by 34 lengths in your previous race, that usually indicates to me that you bled in some capacity. So I'm not necessarily concerned that this horse won't bounce back from that race. I'm more concerned that if this horse isn't the lone speed, that if anything, that sets it up for one like the two for Cassie. Cassie has another one that's a bit of a grinding closer in the 9 Time to Dazzle, one that he probably had a strong opinion on if he decided to send this one to Saudi Arabia. I mean, the money's good enough where if you have a horse that's okay to race there, you'll send him. But I feel like just given the conditions of having to ship, get acclimated, to bring him back, it takes a certain kind of horse to handle those circumstances. And she dove right back into Graded Stakes Company like months after going to Saudi Arabia. It's been racing okay. Just looks like one that maybe needs the surface switch, because when you're going 43 to the first half, or in the first half in a Saratoga sprint, that sometimes you can't gain ground into that, even though you'd think that that's too fast. That sometimes sets things up to be a merry-go-round. You're not going to get that type of speed on the dirt, so maybe a horse like the 9 can also capitalize on whatever the 1 puts up. But I feel like Safi's horse also can do the same. Reagan's Flame looks primed to sit a stalking trip and pounce in this spot. Won the Whimsical in a similar fashion. They went fast to the first half. He strolled by to win. Didn't get a good break in the Royal North, but also had to go 2 turns on the inner turf. So that probably wasn't, she just didn't have a good day and still ran okay. It was only, at least on the Brisnet figures, 10 points less than what she went in winning the Whimsical. So I think returning to the sprint should also help the 6. So to shorten that up, 2-6 as A's. Quick note on the 4 as a B. Ever since Anna Mia got this one from Norm Cassie, it seems like she's just been rehabbing her. And very clearly, this is a good horse. Won at a maiden at Churchill, tackled Stakes Company. Things just weren't working right. I think she's also been racing well, but if she gets fast fractions, she's one that may be too far back, but is going to be a good price that she may also be able to surprise here. Oh, you're muted.
A rare Mikey P mute never really happens. I had to cough though, so we'll excuse that. I like Creed's Gold. You mentioned a lot of the ones I like in here. I just think that synthetic really suits this one. I think the pace scenario last time was against it, the way that Saratoga turf was playing over Belmont weekend. So a lot to like there, and it was racing on Oaks Day, and I thought raced very well there at Churchill. So definitely back home, ready to fire. And you mentioned Time to Dazzle. I think that one's very good in here. You know, Cassie shows up. This one has a synthetic win, albeit one time that this one was over the surface, able to handle it. And you mentioned the Saudi Arabia race. Well, lost a refronter. They had to face the boys in that spot there for $2 million. She did not disgrace herself. She was very good. Look back to the Keeneland lines. This horse is legitimate and now gets, I do think, a drop. I mean, this is a better spot for this one. You get the perfect post, synthetic experience. I mean, there's just things to like about this one here. So I would have those two for sure. I don't want Kehoe Beach in here. She was awesome back when she was rattling off those big wins at Kentucky Downs and at Keeneland and at Churchill. She hasn't been the same since. And not to show up in this spot, goes sprinting against horses that I just think are better than she is right now. I don't want her, and she's going to be a short price. And Reagan's Flame, she's just okay for me. I could see her winning, but Safi's horses really haven't been winning at quite the rate he's used to. So needs to prove it. She can win, but I'll try to fade. So 2-9 for me in race number 9.
Yeah, that I think overall that's going to be a really nice race to watch. I just hate races where a trainer has every base covered, because then in my mind that makes it harder to handicap when they have a speed and they have a really good grinder, because it just seems like, well, it's their race then at that point.
Race 10, grade 3 Trillium Stakes here, Ray. I'm on an 8th now on the synthetic. And fascinating race here too, and it's 3-year-olds and up on the filly side. You have Hurricane Claire back after an interesting ride last time in that optional claiming race where she got the job done. But the story here is Rashimi shipping from Santa Anita off that grade 1 race where she lost to Thought Process. She's going to be a big favorite in here, don't you think?
Yeah, and this touches on the thing that you dislike, which I don't necessarily look at it as a negative. One of the things that trainers have done since, I think Heisa is the main reason why. When you have a horse that can maybe run a few points better in graded stakes company with Lasix, they just send them to Canada because they can do it in Canada. And that to me is the gamble inside of this race. Beyond, do you really value those races in Santa Anita as really strong? Like, yeah, she was second in a grade 1. I don't really know how great that performance is in context, and adding the Lasix, I don't know how much that elevates her. The main piece that goes in her favor is, I don't know, there's a lot of speed inside this race. It seems like the best horses sit off of it, so they will have to attack so that she doesn't get that lone lead. And at the same time, she's run her best races, it seems like, when she can just get into that simple rhythm. And I don't know at a short price if that's really valuable to presume she gets inside of it. I don't think they're going to let her walk with it. In my mind, the 2, especially with as well as she can break, as I was mentioning, how aggressive Esjuan Flores can be in the saddle. The 2 seems like she's going to be at her throat, and just off of that win, very clearly needed that first race. I don't think you can take that's a clear excuse race. This horse hadn't raced in a few months, left the Drexler barn, just needed to get around the track. The fact that she was able to bounce back in form, that just tells me she's probably ready to go, and she's going to be in a prime spot to tackle the 4, even in the event that the John Thomas horse is the lone speed. I had a case to make about the 6 Fantastical, but that one's also pretty obvious. I think you would just hope that she's sitting closer. Was okay in the Royal North, just in my mind, way too far back. I don't know that you're winning this race sitting 8th by 7, but she's been consistent, and the graded stakes performance is okay. It's just tough to also gauge what she has to offer, because otherwise she's racing in optional claimers because she fits in them. She's getting money in them, but that doesn't really tell you that you're a stakes horse necessarily. But this race is chock full of those horses where if they aren't like the 4 that were racing in small field graded stakes in California, they're just racing locally in the top levels that are carded beyond, listed stakes and whatever else is on the condition sheet. That includes the 7 Design, who I don't mind either. The other Mike Wright, it seems like both Mike Wright horses are coming into this race good. The 2 maybe a bit better, just given how stark of a bounce back she showed last time. But I feel like Design is racing well enough and on a steady enough improve that she could also be in the right spot. So ultimately, this race is probably what makes this sequence playable to me, because you can make a case that there's no value in just forfeiting to Rashmi. I forget what it is. But very obvious. I don't really have the same negative feeling you do, because don't you agree that, if you have an okay horse and you can race on Lasix going up into graded stakes, you would do that. That doesn't say the horse is bad necessarily. Like, you're just trying to target a specific spot, and I could still see her winning this.
Yeah, I could see her winning, but I mean, there's lots of questions here. I mean, there's
sure.
She was second in the grade 1 last time, and there's better spots. I mean, what is she doing here to try the synthetic track when she's a clear turf horse that has grade 1 placings on her on her card, and then she shows up here to go synthetic for a pot that's really not that big. I mean, it's 175,000. There's just a lot of questions here. She's going to be a very short price, and she might win. Her class might beat these horses, and that's fine with me, but she needs to prove it. And I'm going to try other horses in here. I'm going to try a horse like Golden Sunshine, who I do think is an interesting look, getting back to the synthetic where she's performed very well. If you look at those turfway lines, and now the numbers are very similar to her turf numbers, but her last 2 races are very good. She was second in the Bewitch at Keeneland. She was a big price in there, but Speed Chopper crushed that field, and she finished up to be second in there. And then she was against the flow in that spot. And then I do think she was against it at Churchill in that race also, where Aya Stark was, again, a very facile winner there on May the 23rd. Now you ship up here. This is a reasonable spot for this horse. She only has 3 lifetime wins. She gets the synthetic track that obviously suits her. She gets back on Lasix here, where she's proven that it does help her just fine. And she raced most of her career on it. So there's just things to like. And you said there's not a lot of speed, but if they do come after the favorite here, she's going to be finishing up. So I do like her in this spot. I think that she plays pretty well. You mentioned design. She had trouble last time on the turn. Watch that replay back. I mean, she lacked room and sort of had to steady, and Hurricane Claire got the jump. She finished up nicely in there. She's third back now. I do think that she has possibilities again from off the pace, just like the 6 does. So I'm going to take the closers in here. We'll probably watch the 3 take them on the 4 take them on a Mary Chase, but I'm just not sold on Rashmi. She needs to prove it for me at a short price. So I'll skip. I'll try others, and we'll see what happens here.
I can see the appeals for the 8. The thing I don't like is this seems like an inherent underlay at 9-2 on the morning line. But that's assuming that in the multis she's playing that way, because I feel like there's still questions to be had about going from a 1.5 mile race on the turf to a 1.125 on the dirt. It's like cutback. So the distance isn't a question. It's more so I feel like when you're going that long, if you're a horse that can be in rhythm and still finish well, that can inflate your figures, and that can inflate how good you actually are, because those races at Turfway are just okay.
They're fine. But she's performed well over the surface. She's performed well at a mile and a 16th, at a 1.25 miles, at a 1.5 miles. So it doesn't seem to matter what she does or where she goes. She puts in her race. Usually it's not good enough, but she's right there all the time. And if I'm trying to fade the favorite here, a horse like this makes a lot of sense.
But again, third choice on the morning line. If she's just somewhat even, I feel like you have better finishers at potentially better prices in that race. And that's my main case against. But for all I know, because sometimes in the multis, they don't play to the morning lines. And that's what makes that race also tricky to navigate.
We went a little long. We gave you plenty of thoughts on the graded stakes. We'll go for the last race here. Their main specials here for the fillies. Again, it's it's a mile. Right, quickly. How are we going to get paid?
Yeah, which Attard do you like? That's basically, at first I was like, oh, this race is actually pretty wide open. And the more I thought about it, it's really just, do you like Attard 1 or Attard 2? I like Attard 1.
Okay. I'm not sure where to go with that.
I mean, I have the 6 Dyna, because like, I hate horses like this, but I don't, if they're confident enough as a 2-year-old to put her in stakes company and she's ultimately racing fine, and then they send her to Keeneland, she breaks well, she just tires. That's a reasonable race. Takes time off, comes up north, doesn't break well, so she can only run as good as she can. Like, you just throw that race out. It's like there seems to be class and form there, that now that she finds this really light maiden special group, it could be hers to lose. The 7 seems a bit too much like a proven loser to me, who's also just even, not really showing enough to get checks, but as the morning line favorite, that just seems like killing the equity of my ticket going that way. In the adventurous side, if I, beyond the Attards, because I have the 6 as my A, I have the 1 and 12 as Bs. The 1 stretching out has the rail. That might add up to something. The 12 is also stretching out, and I thought the debut race was okay. It is kind of interesting to see Mirage getting more rides for Cassie, especially since Savachi is right there and he's riding a 20-1 morning line inside of that race. But the 12 seems okay enough and can easily build off of that performance. Does go from a small field to a big field though. Surface switch might help. So really it's either the class of the Attards wins or one of these stretch out horses wins. That's the best opinion I have.
Well, I did say quickly. I'm not sure that you listened, so I'll go.
That was quicker than everything else I did.
I prefer the 6 of the Attard horses, and for a price, I'll try Miss Brit. That's the 4 6-1 morning line, and third start gets to the grass now. You have Rahi Mare on the bottom, so the pedigree is there, and that one was a graded performer whenever she was racing, albeit quite a while ago, but I do think getting to the grass should suit her. So give me a little Dinah and a little Miss Brit to finish up this pick 4 at Woodbine. Ray, we're a couple weeks away from the Kings Plate. I'm going to show up there for that weekend. We tried to get you up there, but you're a little busy, so we'll see. Maybe we get you up there at a different time. But more Woodbine. This is a good card, a nice weekend. We have some top performers, especially the girls that come to play on Saturday.
No, and again, Woodbine, one of those tracks where you can easily get into the rhythm of it. I think there are some people that I don't know if they like write it off for whatever reason, but if you're looking for a track to just follow, the more you follow Woodbine, it's an incredibly easy track to understand, even though sometimes you'll get like an oddball performance here or there, but you can get into the rhythm of it, and it's an easy track to build an edge that way in my mind.
Jump into Woodbine, get in on the rest of the free content and the plus content on the In the Money Media Network. This has been a production of In the Money Media. We'll see you all next time.